Chapter 200. Deathwish. In the 6 months I had been in society, I already had a townhouse, 3 cars, a clothing line, a completed album, cleared the block of rats, and got into a few shootouts. I was balling because I wanted to catch up. I wanted to catch up on the lost time I spent in prison, so I was moving fast. I got back to DC and immediately had a sale for the garbage pills. Someone wanted them so they could do the same thing the Dominicans did. Crush them to powder, stretch them, then repackage. Only difference was they were going to stretch them with some chopped up garbage coke. The pills already had methamphetamine in it, but now it was baking soda and cut coke. This is exactly what was messing the game up and scaring away customers. Ecstasy wasn't a heavy drug like coke or heroin. Like LSD, Prozac, and Valium, it was considered a happy drug. Ecstasy, or MDMA, methylene dioxymethamphetamine, was created in 1912 by German chemists for pharmaceutical purposes. It was used by the CIA as a psychological weapon during the Cold War. It was a happy drug with therapeutical benefits, particularly amongst people with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Psychiatrists thought it made their patients more willing to participate in the psychotherapy process. But by the 1980s, the medical community released it into the streets for easy purchase as a party drug that made everyone euphoric, open, accepting, unafraid, and happy. It made the user connect to people around them. But the ecstasy game was getting hectic as younger and younger people began using it, with every pill on the market having a different effect. The ecstasy brand that I kept were named Deathwish. They had a pitchfork logo and were the best pills on the market. Everybody loved them because it was a straight love drug. After popping a Deathwish, all you wanted to do was hug and fuck. Touch someone or touch yourself. I used to get them from Amsterdam. The pure ecstasy, like the Deathwishes, was euphoric, but the ecstasy that was mixed with heroin became a happy downer, and the ecstasy mixed with the coke became a happy upper. The young people began to experiment more and more, even dropping it in PCP liquid that we called water. It looked just like water, but it smelled like some powerful toxic chemicals. It was actually embalming fluid, the same chemicals used to embalm dead bodies. They were dropping the ecstasy pills in the water, and once the pills dissolved, they would dip a cigarette in it, let it dry, and then smoke it. It was cigarette chemicals mixed with embalming fluid chemicals mixed with ecstasy chemicals. At least 1,000 different chemicals all being inhaled at once. We call dipping the cigarettes in the water dippers. But dipping it in ecstasy mixed with water was called yum yum. The yum yum gets some num dum dum. The yum yum not only burned super slow and got them super high, but they would hallucinate and start seeing superficial things. Dippers by itself was super dangerous and gave men superhuman strength. Strength that would supersede any strength you ever seen. But now it was super dangerous with the ecstasy mix. They stayed on an ecstasy trip. In some cities, dippers are called fry because every time someone smoked a dipper, they fried millions of brain cells. Brain cells that would never return. The Dipper. Chapter 201. Dippers. I had a young homie that smoked dippers daily and stayed in a stupor. He would always beg to hang out with me, but I would always refuse. Nah, young comrade, you be smoking that bullshit. He said, nah, Tweez, The youngsters called me Tweez. I haven't smoked any dippers in a whole week. You can ask anybody. I'm done with it. I asked a few people and they all stamped it. He hadn't smoked since last Saturday. He'd been clean ever since. I was hesitant still. We were going to see Backyard tonight at the Mad Chef Cafe on Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, right across the Maryland line. Last thing we need is some unnecessary problems. I'm telling you, Tweez, I'm good. You don't have to worry about nothing. I'm not smoking, and I'm definitely not drinking. Plus, you promised that we could hang out if I stopped smoking. I stared at him for a second to try and gauge how serious he was, because someone off of the dippers is hard to handle and the last person you want to be around, especially outside of your neighborhood. They were unpredictable and too erratic, and if they started acting up around dudes from other hoods, they would automatically know that the dude is off the dipper and wouldn't hesitate to kill him. Dipper heads were too dangerous. They were nothing to play with. Okay, I said to him. He was right. I did promise him we could hang out together if he was sober, so that night we hopped in a homie's Lincoln Navigator and we headed to see Backyard. It was 4 of us. As we got in a go-go, everything was going smooth. The music was cranking and the girls were shaking. Ironically, Backyard had a song that they used to perform called The Dipper. And as soon as that song came on, I looked over at the homie. He was in chill mode smoking a cigarette. I told him, I'll be back. I had to use the restroom. As soon as I returned, I noticed the homie that was smoking a cigarette was staring at the ceiling with his arms out as if he was floating in the sky. What the fuck? I looked at him wondering what happened. I knew he didn't smoke any dippers and I knew he wasn't drinking. His legs were shaking and his fingers were moving as if he was playing a piano. His head swayed with the music, but his eyes were closed and his mouth was open. Shit. Hey Slim, one of my other homies spoke. Someone passed him a dipper? I doubt it. Even though the go-go's are always smoked out, it's almost exclusively weed. If someone lit a dipper, it would cause tension. Not just because dipper heads were unpredictable and nutty, but everybody hated the smell of it. It smelled like burning plastic. But he looked like he off the dipper though, Tweez. Bet it was that fucking cigarette. Dippers were called dippers because the cigarette was dipped in embalming fluid. We called the embalming fluid water, so a dipper was essentially a cigarette dipped in water. But the water, which was embalming fluid, was used for dead bodies, so once it entered into your system, it usually stayed there for months, sometimes years, and depending on how much is in your system, it could be triggered by anything. Damn, I ain't even think about that. He had so much water in his system that it was triggered by a cigarette, as if he literally smoked the whole dipper. Fuck. I went and grabbed him and tried to bring him back to normalcy, but he was too far gone. He was staring at the ceiling singing opera. He was singing Pavarotti. What the hell? We gotta get him up out of here. As soon as I said that, the lights came on. The go-go was about to let out anyway and people started heading for the doors. So now we were in a cramped up position. Shit. No good. It was a girl in line in front of us with one of the biggest asses in the city. She was a pretty Blasian girl from out Maryland, and she had on some lowrider jeans that allowed you to see the top part of the thong she wore underneath. This nutbag reaches down, grabs the top part of her thong, and yanks it upwards full force, giving her a wedgie and ripping the thong from out of the back of her jeans. It seemed as if everything stopped right there. She screamed. He laughed. She swung. He blocked her. She screamed louder. He laughed louder. She swung again. He caught it and kissed her hand. I had to step in between them while telling the other homies to drag him to the navigator and get him up out of here before he get us all killed. The girl was still cussing and swinging while her thong hung out of the back of her jeans. He pulled it so hard I wouldn't be surprised if she was bleeding down there. The thong was destroyed. It was ripped and swinging across her back pockets. The homies dragged him to the truck while I went to the side of a building to retrieve 2 4/5 that we took with us. Going to the go-go at that time was like heading to a war zone. Everybody had an arsenal. AKs, Uzis, 50 cals, 4.4s. Everything was taken to the go-go just in case some shit kicked off. And when something did kick off, bullets buzzed like mosquitoes in the air and plenty people got bit. I grabbed the 4/5 and began walking back towards the truck when I saw that the girl was taking the police over to the navigator. It was also a MAC 10 inside of the truck. The 2 4/5s were backup just in case someone broke into the truck. Once I saw the cops heading towards the truck, I walked away from it but signaled to the homie that was driving to meet me up the street. As I was walking, another police car put his bright lights on me. He had saw me come out of the cut. He was watching me closely, so I kept walking as the navigator pulled out of the parking lot with the other police and the girl yelling for it to stop. Soon as the truck pulled out on Central Avenue, which was a 6-lane avenue, I took off running across 3 lanes into oncoming traffic, then towards the navigator, which was pulling up with 2 police cars behind it. I hopped onto the running board while grabbing the roof racks. "Hey, youngin', go!" The homie stomped on the gas heading towards the DC line with me hanging off the side with the 2 4/5s on my waist. The dipperhead was in the back seat still singing Pavarotti, while the other homie was holding my shirt through the window so I don't fall off. He grabbed one of the 4/5s, but the other one was halfway down my leg. One of the police cars behind us was trying to get in front of us, but youngin' that was driving wasn't having it. He kept swerving, blocking his path. We flew past other cars with the cop cars behind us and me hanging off the side of the truck with a loaded 4/5 stuck inside of my pants by my ankle. Barrel pointed upwards towards my face. Ugh. As we got closer to the DC line, the cop cars slowed down. They couldn't continue the pursuit and cross the border into DC unless they had witnessed the felony, which they didn't. In actuality, their only probable cause is the young lady saying she was assaulted, but the pulling on a thong probably made the pigs laugh. Only thing they could have done was contact the DC authorities to do a traffic stop once we crossed the line, and we knew that would take some time. As we crossed into DC, they cut their lights off and turned off. The homie slowed down and quickly turned onto a dark back street, and I immediately hopped in. I had to pull my pants all the way off to get to the pistol lodged by my ankle, and I had to be extremely cautious. The barrel was facing straight towards my face. We all made it home and safe, and the dipperhead wasn't allowed to ride with us anymore. A close call and a lesson learned.